Recalculating Route, a show about taking a new direction with your life. Here's your host, Christee Atwood.
Welcome. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for Recalculating Route. We're so glad you're here, whether you're here right now or you're here on the recording later or whenever. We are so happy that you're here with us because we got a really good topic that we're talking about today, and a very important topic. You know, you think about Christmas as this wonderful holiday time, this whole season as this, happy, jolly time. It's not always, it's also a time as much of tremendous highs and tremendous lows. And this season is an especially difficult one that we've been going through with COVID and everything else that we've been experiencing. It has not been a typical holiday season. And so I've got some really outstanding people today to help us that are just two wonderful people that I love to death, that are going to help us get some ideas of things that, just some ideas of things that can help us during this time, and share some stories. So how about it? Y'all want to join in with us? And let you introduce yourselves. Gina, you want to get us started by introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Gina. I'm a clinical social worker from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I've known Christee for a long time. We used to be, we were columnists for a magazine in Baton Rouge. And I'm a clinical social worker, so I teach social work at the local university here, LSU. The only university. No, just kidding. Louisiana State University School of Social Work, and I also have a small private practice. And Christee and I, we've been talking about that. I know that there are so many people having difficulty right now, because my clients themselves are having difficulty, and we'll talk about that shortly. But thank you for inviting me, Christee.
Thanks for being here, Gina. Appreciate it very much. Sarah.
And good evening. I'm Reverend Sarah Whitten-Grigsby. I am an interfaith minister. I am wearing a turban. I feel the need to explain, or the desire to explain, because I'm in pretty aggressive chemo for fairly aggressive breast cancer, but I have an excellent attitude. Don't feel sorry for me. And I am president and founder of One More Day Foundation. We provide hospice or foster hospice for abandoned dogs and occasionally cats. And I'm certainly very familiar with anniversary depression and holiday depression. And as someone who is indeed extremely resilient, I hope that I will have some comfort and suggestions to offer this evening.
Awesome. I'm so glad y'all are here. Now, I am going to mention we got some wonderful guests in the room, and I invite them at any given time to add stuff into the chat if you have questions or comments, anything that you want to do. I mean, got fun comments going on right now. That's exciting. But anything else that you want to add? Also, I'd like to, in case I don't know where everybody's from, take a moment and type into the chat where you're listening from, so we'll have an idea of all of our locations. That's just kind of fun for us. And we'll just go ahead and get started talking on this, and we'll throw in any time that they have anything that they want to add. Please, share with us. So, okay, well, shall we start with an overview, just a general idea of depression during the holidays, maybe why it's so difficult right now. Gina, would you like to get us started with some thoughts from that?
For so many people, I mean, we have these huge expectations about the holidays. We see it on TV, we get the material in the mail that looks like everybody's just having this wonderful snowy holiday. And when ours isn't like that, we feel like something's wrong with us. So we've always known that people have this feeling of unrealistic expectations sometimes. This sense of they've got to be doing more, going to more parties, having their house decorated, more and more and more. And so those of us that are struggling with that, with a busy schedule, we've always felt that stress, right? We've always felt the stress or the feeling of inadequacy because we can't get to that point. And so we've always had a bit of that. But now with COVID, it's almost added another whole layer. Because people who are struggling with depression or feeling like, I'm not at that place yet, now they have this whole additional layer to deal with. So I know I'm seeing a lot of that. People are very unhappy about where they are in life, no matter what, not no matter what, but right now, and not knowing how to get through the holidays. In addition to that, I work with a lot of caregivers.
Mhm.
And some of these folks are getting, they are in grief about what their life was like before or what their loved one was like before. And I know some people who have had losses. And so their Christmas is going to be changed. It's going to be different. And I hope we talk about that, we have to give those folks permission to be able to move at their pace and to not force them to be in our Christmas because we want them to be happier or we're uncomfortable with their depression. So we need to look at all those options for people.
Well, that is a great point. I mean, you can't put a time limit on that grieving process. And so many of us go through that holiday season. They're like, "Oh, you got to be happy now. It's past." No, our hearts decide at different times when it's really past. And it seems like this is a time that can bring up those wonderful holiday traditions that you used to have, and it makes the loss even more profound.
Right.
And our friends that love us and care for us, they don't like to see us in despair or pain. And so they're going to jump in and want to fix that. Were you going to say something, Sarah?
I was just going to say, as you said, Gina, the expectations are so high. And I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, anniversary depression. And to me, holiday blues is, very much the same thing because there are specific dates or occasions that bring up pain in us. And for a lot of us, and Christee, you made a reference to this, I think, when we were setting up the show, it has to do with missing what once was. We're missing our lost loved ones, which is enormous. We may be, yearning for the days of our misspent youth or whatever it is that we had. And so there are many ways of approaching this. But one thing I wanted to say is that there is a little bit of comfort, albeit cold comfort, which is a favorite phrase of mine because it's so applicable to so many things, where we can really try to focus on and remember that those beautiful times can never be taken away from us. They will always be there. And that may only provide a nanosecond of comfort or relief. But I know when I was grieving after my mother died, which wasn't very long ago, I was in deep grief for a year. And then one morning I woke up and I went, "Oh, I had a beautiful mother." And I didn't feel sad. And I realized that nothing could ever change that. Nothing would ever take that away. So one tiny source of comfort for all of us who are having a difficult time this holiday, and so many people are, is to remember that those times you're yearning for can never be erased, that they are a part of you, that you carry them, and nothing can ever delete that.
Those are yours, right?
I love that. That even if it's just a grain of happiness in that one moment, that's okay. We'll nurture that baby. We'll keep, but I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And it comes up as a surprise. I mean, maybe not this Christmas, but maybe at the next Christmas. I remember when I was grieving after my husband died, a very dear friend of mine said, you're going to wake up one day and the sun will shine differently for you and you will be happy again. At that point, I couldn't see that. But when that did happen, I remembered that message that she gave me that, yes, today looks beautiful now. I am able to have a good day again. But in the deepest grief, you can't see that. Christee, as we were preparing for this talk, I mean, I was thinking of my worst Christmas ever after my husband died. And what I chose to do was very different from what most people do. I really, I got leave from work and I said, I'm going to be out for 2 weeks. I cannot cope with all the Christmas parties, the decorations, all of this. I'm going to my house and I really am going to shut out the world for 2 weeks because I don't want to be reminded. And that was chose to do. I did not take calls. You know, I told people I'm going to be with my parents, but no tree, no nothing, no celebration. Please don't force me to have to face that. So know that I'll come out later, okay, but please don't force me to do that. And people are so uncomfortable with your grief that they want to fix it. Like I said, they're uncomfortable seeing you in pain. My friends hated my pain because it was all over me. It was in my face and I couldn't talk. But they wanted me to get well, so they would want to have me, oh, just a small, or just come over just for punch and cookies, or just a distraction. That wasn't what I wanted, what I needed. I needed to be away. But people will be different. Some people will want to take, you know, small pieces of the holiday and say, you know, I can go do just one thing. I can do this. I might visit for Christmas lunch and stay a little bit, and then I'll leave. Or I might put up a tree, or I might just light a candle. It'll be different for everybody.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that and respect that.
Yes.
And really listen to what people say, huh?
Yes, and I think when you are blue, whether it's holiday depression or whether it's grief during the holidays, and they are related, but two different things, no one can say to you how you should be feeling or that you should have gotten over it by now. That is entirely up to you. And I say this, you know, from my work with homeless hospice dogs. I know so much about grief counseling for people who've lost their beloved pets, especially dogs. And no one can say to you, you shouldn't be sad anymore. You know, that was last month. You have to let other people's grief unfold, and they need to let your grief unfold. Or as Gina said, then you have every right to go shut yourself in your house for 2 weeks. The thing is, too, I think when we are listening to someone who's in pain, not to try to fix it, which Gina talked about, but just be present, just listen fully. That is what someone needs, not someone, you know, someone who is in pain is not seeking a solution from you. So
that is so hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard if you love somebody to see them in pain.
Absolutely.
But you can say, I'm going to be right over here. If you need me, I'll be right over here. And is it okay if I check on you or just text you? You know, some people may not want a telephone call, and that might be just what they need. Because we do encourage people too, that if it's going to be a really hard holiday, try to have a backup plan, a supportive net. If you think, you know, I'm going to be alone, there will be times that I'll be okay. But when it's a really tough, something really tough at night, maybe it's usually worse at night for people. Yes. I might need to call you. Can I call you then? And set that up for yourself.
Exactly. I think the other thing to remember, this is a favorite quote from my youth. Last year. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, sorry.
Is that the bird? I don't think so.
That was the
bird. My favorite quote, one of them from Longfellow, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, is "The lowest ebb is the turn of the tide." And of course, you've all heard variations on that. It's always darkest before the dawn, right. Etc. But it is very true that sometimes when we are at our lowest, and certainly during these holidays when mercifully it might be a limited time of blueness, that things are going to get better. Sometimes just when you think they can't, they will. So hang in there and have faith that the tide is going to turn. It may not turn until after the holidays, which is okay. But be assured that the sun will come out.
And it sounds glib, and you have to be very careful when you say that. If you say, you know, well, you know, this too will pass, and somebody's in their deepest grief, this is going on forever. But one thing that did help me is that somebody, and I don't remember where I heard it. Somebody said, you know, women have been widows, you know, throughout history, and they make it. Look how many there are. They do survive. And I don't know why that struck me. And I said, well, you know, yeah, people, they live through this, because I didn't think I could live through it. But I thought, well, there are women that do go through this and make it. And I'll tell you what was really helpful was to hear from other women in the same situation, a support group. And I had to go to therapy. I went to a support group because I had to hear from other people that were in the same situation. And that was enormous, beyond value. That was one of the best things I did.
So
Yeah.
therapy can be a good thing to consider at a time like this, huh?
Yes, there it doesn't have to be individual therapy. It can be a group therapy. It can be there are many support groups in different communities. You can find them through your church, and there are grief recovery centers. Locally here we have a grief recovery center, which they do an excellent job at having a grief group so that you can hear from other people and have hope. And this gives you hope because you see them making it. And also when you are there and you give and you have a small gift for somebody in what you've experienced, that means, that helps you so much.
Absolutely.
To know that your painful experience has helped somebody else.
That is something, making something positive out of something that was so hard for us, knowing that it's making a difference for someone else. I know that's what followed up my my caregiving time, was being able to help other caregivers and give them ideas. So definitely understand that. Some really interesting statements that we're getting here, by the way, in the chat. Let's see here. That
Yeah.
one of the things that triggers depression is accepting misery as a comfort zone, because it can be a battle to get out from under it.
Yeah.
The longer you accept it, it becomes your comfort zone. It's the place where, okay, I can be sad. I'll just be sad. And what do y'all say about trying to get yourself out of that? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff of, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Come on. What is it when we find that has become our comfort zone? What do you do? What do you think?
I think it's what you do during that time. If that's, if this is your comfort zone, your misery, what is this time? What will you do? Will you cry and sob? Will you vent? Will you need somebody? But this needs to be your time to do this. We used to have black armbands when people died, and it was to alert the community, society, that this person is in mourning. So be more delicate with them, be kinder to them, acknowledge that they are not receiving information or the news as clearly. And I think that is so valuable, to know that somebody is in this mourning. And so that when you tell them something, when you give them news, I think they need it given to them in a different way, in a kinder and a slower way. When I was going about my business, I couldn't talk straight, and I would break down wherever I was and say, I remember this one lady calling me on the phone about something, a bill or something, and I just broke down. I was in such pain. I would break down talking to everybody, and I made her cry. She was crying, talking to me, crying. I'm so sorry. She was start crying. But people, if they know that you're in that pain, they will be kinder. They will give you that space.
There is such a vulnerability when you are grieving. And again, we're talking about different levels, because there's deep grief and then there's holiday blues. And sometimes, unfortunately, the two are happening at the same time. But some years ago, I lost a sister very suddenly, and I was writing about it. And I wrote that I didn't dare set foot out of the house to go to the grocery store, because I felt as if I had had a limb ripped.
Yes.
And nobody could see that. And somebody was going to just come up and say hello, and I was going to shatter into a million pieces. So definitely there's an aspect of self-protection, I feel. And if you are in the blues level as opposed to deep grief, which is such a different thing, one of the things that I think can help is to reach out to other people, to listen, truly listen to what they're going to, going through, and maybe to be able to offer some advice if they ask for it from your own experience. But it can help, if we are up to it, to step out of our own selves and help someone else, even if in a small way and very briefly, during these times when we ourselves are in pain.
Yes.
So, serving others, even in a tiny way, I think can help lift us up out of our own painful emotions.
Giving, there is so much, we get so much when we can help somebody in a small way. It does lift us.
Yeah.
We
So
can
one of the
appreciate.
tools for this can actually be doing for others.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, like Shelley said, that totally makes sense. Absolutely. This is really good. Well, just general ideas. What are some of the things that you suggest to people when somebody says, they're just in the blues? I just, this holiday's got me down. What are some of the other things that you bring? I mean, that's a really good one, is helping others. What are some other things that you bring up to people to help raise their spirits? Sarah?
I was going to say, I don't want for a minute to marginalize this or ever make it sound, easy. But if you can distract yourself, when we are in deep grief, we can't distract ourselves. You might have 15 seconds where your dog is barking loudly and you can forget what's the incredible pain you're in. But when we have the blues, that maybe aren't quite so severe, we can distract ourselves. And this is where people like Eckhart Tolle, who's one of my favorite spiritual leaders, he may or may not be someone that or follow, would say, try to stay in the now, of course. And I know you've all heard this before, which to me means focus on something positive, comedy, anything that will take your mind off your sadness. Because to me, every 30 seconds that you're distracted is a tiny piece of healing. Every little few moments, or maybe it's going to be 2 hours when you're watching some hilarious movie, that you are distracted, focused on what's happening right now and not thinking of the sadness of the loss of your loved ones and the previous holidays and how much better they were and how much you yearn for them. That time is quietly, organically uplifting you. So if you can distract yourself with positive things, that is one way. And it has to be things, that you're comfortable with, that you want to do. If it means going for a walk with a friend with masks on for half an hour, then fine. Whatever it is, but it can take you out of your own pain and start the teeniest healing process, I think.
And have a schedule, and certainly not a rigid schedule, but a schedule, a list of things, of possibilities to have for yourself. This is a list of some things that I can look to, or things that I can do during the day. Whenever I talk to them, I say, okay, let's talk about what are you going to do this weekend? You're going to be alone. It's going to be very difficult. Can we talk about how you can feel that day? How can you feel that day? And who are some people that you can call? Have that list, and it takes, you have to write it down and have it so where you see it. And if you say, well, I've thought of this, and they'll think about it in their mind, but at the moment they'll forget. So I'll say, I really want you to have it written down so that you can refer to it. Here's my list. This is the kind of schedule that, I can look at. These are some things that are available to do during the day.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. So that you don't automatically go to anything negative. You instead, oops, somebody coming in, excuse me. Let me close that one. So you don't automatically go to anything negative. Instead, you go to those things on that list.
And what, Christee, your book, The Book of Me, is a really good tool for that, because you can have that written there. And don't you love that I plugged your book there? Huh?
I'll send your money later. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So your book, where, you can have a list of things, it will prompt you to do that. And I've referred people to that book for that reason.
I'm glad to hear that.
Laura in chat had a good question.
Yes. Go ahead. You want to read it?
What are some signs of holiday depression that we can look for in others, and what should we do or say to them? So this is the weird year, the hideous year, because you may not be seeing anyone in person.
Right.
And so my thought is you may pick up on things on social media that you see that tell you that somebody is having a hard time. I guess, so that is an issue this year. You know, if you're looking for signs in others, it's not as easy to see them because we're not in person.
Right.
But you may be. Maybe you're in person regularly with just a couple of family members or a very close friend. And I think that, you know, withdrawal is a symptom, wouldn't you say, Gina?
Yes. Withdrawal, you know, that's why it's especially important for everybody to be connecting, you know, connect with, you know, your family, your friends, check on each other, see how everyone is doing. And it's hard to do if you're not seeing people in person, but maybe you can be on FaceTime, and maybe you can do a Zoom, maybe you can call them, or maybe you can see them from a distance, even at their house, you know, through the yard. Hello, checking, how are you? We've got to make accommodations for this. You know, this is what we have, so we have to work around it. But withdrawing, or, you know, or if they give some cues, verbal cues, if they start saying things like what you were saying, Christee, if they're saying, I just can't get it together for Christmas. You know, it's just not the same, or I really don't feel like doing anything. You know, my family is gone, or my husband died. Those are things to pay attention to. Not to impose, but to say, I'm hearing you say this. I want you to know that I'm right here. I can do this for you. Is it all right if I call you during the day just to check on you? Ask permission. And hopefully they will be honest. They'll say, you know, either, no, I really don't want to take any calls, or yeah, that would be nice. Thank you.
Sometimes we have those folks who will say, I'm fine. And fine is like that word that we need to watch out for. You know,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean when I'm talking about that?
Yeah, they don't want to talk beyond that. And, you know, it would be important for you to even take a risk and say, I know this is really hard because, you know, you lost your husband. So, you know, just checking, you know, how are you, what kind of things are you doing during the day? Or are you still having trouble sleeping at night? And they might say, yeah, I haven't slept for 2 nights. And that's really bad when people are not sleeping. They become very vulnerable, and their mental health really can quickly go downhill.
This is really good stuff to know. And something that Shelley mentioned in the chat, and this is kind of an interesting one, because I mean, we talk about the depression over loss of people, but even as a caregiver, I went through the pre-depression, knowing what was happening, that, you know, my parents were aging, and that can be a totally different kind of grief that you're dealing with. You feel guilty because you're grieving them and they're still here.
Yeah, anticipatory grief.
Yeah, okay, yes. And that's a hard one to handle. Been there, Sarah?
Yeah, I've been there, absolutely, caring for both my parents. And that anticipatory grief is another one of my favorite phrases. My mother had Parkinson's for 25 years. And the last 5 or so of those, I would pray that she would go home to God. And then when she did, I was devastated. So, but there was all kinds of guilt in there. But the thing about caregiving, again, very hard this year because we don't have as many options as we might have had in terms of getting some help in. Plus, it's not affordable for everybody. But I think for caregiving, which is huge, it's a huge, huge burden and can contribute hugely to depression. The only answer is to try to have a tiny break here and there.
Respite.
Beg pardon? Yes.
Respite.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it might be someone that you've been seeing regularly, so you know they don't have cooties in terms of, and you can say, if you'll just come and sit with my mother for, you know, an hour. And those little things will make a big difference. You have to have that relief. I don't know how else you lighten the burden if you are a caregiver, because it is so intense and so
Yeah,
relentless.
It's
And
the
so many-
physical, it's the physical
Yeah,
work as well.
Yeah.
It's the physical attendance to, being with a loved one. Yeah, I work with families too who are in their caregiving years and helping them figure out how to share this workload. Because Sarah, what I find usually, I mean, it sounds like, you of course you're able to honestly and openly and ask for help, but so many people won't ask for it. And we hear some things they'll say, well, my sister or my brother, I mean, they know what I'm going through, I shouldn't have to ask. And I say, no, that's not how it's going to work here.
Yeah.
You have to ask clearly, because they'll say, well, she knows that, I have to pick up mom, I have to cook for her, I have to, dress her. And I say, still, you are letting her know that you are doing everything, have not asked.
Mhm.
And then when they do ask, sometimes they'll want things perfectly. They'll say, well, but she's not doing it this way. So I'll just handle it myself. And I'll say, remember what the goal is. The goal is for you to have a break. So don't get caught in the small little things that you are going to end up hurting yourself more, because you need this break. So it won't be perfect. Let go of that first. It
Right.
won't be perfect, okay? But it doesn't have to be perfect for you to be able to step away, or you will not survive this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes be specific. I keep telling people, have a list of things. So when the people say something
Yeah.
like, how can I help? You can pick up my prescriptions for me.
That's exactly
Something
it.
very
Yes.
specific and small that they could do. Because Mariah mentioned something in here about the sacrifice effect. And I guess that's sort of like what I was thinking about. There was a side of martyrdom, being a caregiver. And I know I fell prey to that. And it is something that we have to keep in mind. I guess that's what she's talking about. Do y'all know what that is? The sacrifice effect?
It sounds sort of like what Gina was saying. Someone's saying, "Oh, I must
I'll
do."
take care of everything. No,
Mhm.
if it's not
Right.
going to be perfect,
Oh,
I can do this, I can do that. And then others will start to see them as a martyr. Well, there's nothing for me to do, because she insists on being the only person. So she's going to be the martyr. But, that can only last so long. I mean, people have, a physical limit too, to not sleeping and to having to constantly do a lot of the physical things that you do when you're caregiving. So yeah, I think that's what she must mean about the sacrifice effect, but also, and maybe this is, so maybe it's the fact that people think that they have to do it all to be the good child or to be the good caregiver. They have to do this, this, and this. Uh, you know, Otherwise, it's not as significant to their parent.
Mhm.
mhm, mhm.
So, okay. Oh, Sarah, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say that those of us who have been caregivers know that no matter how devoted we are, we will always feel as if we could have done better.
Yes.
Doesn't
There's
matter
always
whether we were lying in the road bleeding. We could have done better.
There you go. Oi.
So that's, what Gina said about, someone doing it all themselves and doing it perfectly. It'll never be enough. So don't go there.
Well, you two are so amazing. I'd like to know, what are some of the things that you do when you start feeling a little bit on the downside? What are some of the things that you do that help you pull yourself back up? Because I have a feeling y'all have some interesting things that you go through.
I get into bed with my dogs. Be honest. I get into bed and they join me, I should say.
Well, isn't that soothing? Yes.
It's so soothing. I smile. I always say, once you have napped with a dog, you can never go back. And I have a really big dog. I spoon him when I'm feeling wretched.
There's nothing like pets. I mean, there is nothing like pets. I have this silly, ridiculous cat, and she is very soothing. And thank God she's a good, I can crawl all over her and twist her around, and she just purrs and falls around. She doesn't hiss or anything. She's a good cat. But honestly, I have such a good support system. I can call people and they will, that to me is number one, is being able to talk to somebody. That is most important to me. And I encourage people, look for small rewards. During time of COVID, you know, there's so little to do. There's so little that we can give ourselves. A small reward. If somebody brings you a candy bar, okay, oh, this is your reward for today. You know, whatever, small rewards, a call to a friend, just small rewards, because we're going through so much.
I heartily agree with that. I too have a better support system than I deserve, but I am selective, as we all should be, about who those peeps are that we talk to when we're at our most vulnerable. So if you can, surround yourself with those who love you and know you and accept you as you are, of course, of course.
I had to rotate mine, Sarah, because I was so pained and so difficult to manage in my grief. I mean, I would have just moments of complete desperation. And I thought, okay, well, I called this friend last night, so tonight Carolyn gets it. And I would rotate, and I would say, tonight's your night, you know, and remember, everybody, that as when people have Alzheimer's, there's a sundown effect. With most of us, things are worse at night.
So true. So true. Absolutely. And God bless FaceTime. I mean, any FaceTime.
Yes, yes.
My whole life, I have not liked the telephone. It felt, you know, second hand to me, didn't feel in the first person. I always felt sort of as if there was a wall between me. And now there's FaceTime. And now it's even more wonderful to have a call with one of your peeps.
Yeah. I'm a visually oriented person, and I need that extra level. So a phone call, I get distracted during, but with something like this, that's why the whole visual thing, the video stuff, it's been great for me, because you're totally invested in the conversation. And that's when I feel the real therapy in the head starts, because I really get out of my own head and I'm starting to connect with other people.
Definitely. Definitely. So do FaceTime, everybody. Whatever version of that. Zoom.
Yes, whatever yours is. Yeah, hey, Zoom. I love Zoom. I think it's a great tool, you know. So yes. Well, let's see here. There are a lot of resources, and we were talking about some of the different ones beforehand, because I had just found this new app that I'm just in love with, Action for Happiness. It's a cool app that keeps sending me all these messages, those positive messages. It's from Berkeley, the Greater Good Science Center.com or .org, that has this happiness calendar. Every day of the month, there's something they suggest that you try, you know, to build happiness. And now it's sending me all this stuff, reminding me, you know, today would be a good day to do something nice for somebody, or don't forget to give yourself a break today. You don't have to do it all, that kind of stuff. You know, just little cute things like that. What are some of the other resources that you would recommend for people who might be having a rough time?
Gina, I think will have a wonderful list of resources.
Well, generally it's, you know, what are some things, you know, right now during this period, we do say, what are some things that you've wanted to do that you haven't been able to do? This is a time when you're going to be alone. I know people think this is silly, but things that you can relax and enjoy. I have taken up adult coloring, and it is so relaxing to me. And I don't have creativity. I've never been an artist, but no one's going to grade me on this. I tell people, no one is going to grade you. This is for you. You're not going to get an A. You're not going to get a B, but you know, it's kind of fun to have gel pens, things like that. I also encourage people to journal, write down in your journal what's happening, how you feel during the day, because for two reasons. One is when you see your own words in print as you're writing, it gives you a different perspective, and it gives you a different look on what you're saying to yourself. But also, as things change, and hopefully that you're getting better, you'll be able to, because when people are getting better, they can't always tell. People, you know, I'll have clients that go, I'm not getting better, and I'll say, you know, I think you are getting better. You're sleeping better. You're eating better. You express here a lot less anxiety than you had when you first started. And they'll say, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. Because they don't feel it immediately. But if you have a journal, if they have a journal and they look back on the journal, they can see the difference of when they started or where they were at that low point and where they are now. Now, in between, they will have highs and lows. And so, but let's acknowledge that after the low, you will come up again. But look at where you started and where you are now. So that's
Just Yeah, and just the fact that they can actually say, I don't know if I'm feeling better. That means they're opening up, which is probably something they couldn't have said a couple of months back, when they were in the deep
yes,
throes. So
yes,
that's a really good point.
yeah. And some things to do that that they have wanted to do. Small successes also. I was really talking to some clients about actually about self-doubt and how do you build back after you have such self-doubt, and that's to build on small successes and recognize what's a success, so that you would write that in your journal. What's a success that you had today? And we're not talking finishing a book or I rearranged this drawer. Okay, so I got through that today. That gives you hope that you're getting better, you are getting more organized, you're having some more motivation, so you moving in the right direction. But people may need they may need guidance in this, and it's not because it's my work business to because I'm a therapist, but because sometimes it takes somebody outside the family, and maybe it could be a pastor, it could be a reverend, it could be a therapist, it could be calling somebody on a hotline. And Christy, I sent you a list of some hotline phone numbers, and some of those are for, it's a very varied list.
Dropping it right now into the chat. Okay.
So whatever your issues are, there is hope in many different places here. Just know that you're not alone and that there is help. There's help in many different hotlines.
That is great.
But you got to take the risk. You got to take the risk.
Uh-huh. And I got to bring one up that I did recently that really helped me. This sounds so silly, but normally I have this huge to-do list, and on Saturday mornings I had this huge long to-do list I'm gonna do over the weekend. I got so depressed even before the day started because I was like, oh, this is going to be impossible. I said, whoa, let me rethink this. I put it aside and I did a done list. Every time I did the tiniest little thing, I wrote it on my list.
Yes.
And it was really fun. I mean, it was like, hey, made the coffee. Woohoo! This list was huge by the time I got through, and I realized, even when I think I'm not doing anything, I'm doing a ton.
That happens so often when people don't think they've done anything during the day, and as we start to talk and in their dialogue, I realize, actually, you have kids. You took the kids to soccer. You did the laundry. You called your friend, and so but write down everything. And when you write down, I write down everything I have a Saturday to-do list too. And not just that, but I make my boyfriend have one too. I want him to have a list too. He's got a honey-do list. But we have the list, and I write down small things in there because you wonder where your day went. And that can lead you to feel like, what did I do? I wasted my day. Look how depressed I am. But if you see that actually you did fill your day doing a lot more things than you thought, and if you see it on the list, it's more tangible to you.
Yeah, that's excellent.
More, Sarah, do you have some resources that you would recommend?
Well, I always say go get a dog, but it's harder. That's much harder. Or a cat.
I have a bunch. Anybody who wants one, I'm just saying.
But that's obviously easier said than done. But again, that is a way of stepping out of yourself to take care of another being. If you have that inclination, get a nice senior animal, because they are so much lower maintenance usually. And one of my great resources has always been writing, and mostly creative writing. And I actually stopped for a long time, partly because I got dogs and a second husband, and that took up a lot of time. But I have just started again. And it's not so much journaling, although I have been writing about some things that have happened to me, but writing about them for other people. And that is always a huge source of creative release and upliftment, which I don't think is a word. I think I made it up.
It should be.
Yeah, I think so too. So if you have any inclination to write anything, and as the old saying goes, you know, write 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes, 5 I don't think is long enough, but just set aside a little block of time and get in the habit of writing, as Gina said, about what's happening with you and how you're feeling, or maybe writing something else entirely. I do find that an enormous resource, inner resource. People always say to me, do you have a church? And I say, my church is in here. I don't have a building per se.
I like that.
So
Don't need
that,
the
I
building.
would say that too. But I do think also, Christy, back to what you said, there are some wonderful sources of daily quotes, daily uplifting positive quotes that can come into your email, like Story People, and the one that you said, Christy, the happiness one. And those really can give you a little boost. And, you know, that's a tiny thing, but it's helpful.
That's good. We're getting some really interesting comments too, y'all. I don't know
I
if y'all
know,
seen in the chat. Just so much going on there, talking about people who won't open up. And this we see a lot on Facebook. People posting those really sad, depressing memes that you're like, oh, this person has some serious issues going on, but they don't talk about it. Do you approach somebody? Do you talk to somebody like that? How do you do something about it?
I think it's really what Gina said earlier about, without, you know, imposing your will to fix it, just offering, you know, are you okay? Would you like to talk? I'm here if you want to talk. Just to be present, to truly listen, and see if maybe somebody will indeed start to talk with you.
Yeah, and if it's like you said, if it's somebody posting something, I was on Facebook with somebody. This is interesting. Somebody I knew from years ago, and they posted a very vague statement, and it concerned me. So, and apparently it concerned a lot of people, because everybody, you know, wrote in on the Facebook, I'm worried about you. Hey, this does not sound right. I'm going to call you. And everybody reached out to them. And so it was like one statement he made, and all his world, you know, were there. I don't want you to do this alone. You're not alone. Can you call me? Can I call you later? Or, you know, can we get together? Immediately, I don't think he realized the response he was going to get. It was a lot of people who were concerned about him.
Yeah.
What a nice realization.
Yes.
Finding out that that people care.
I think people do step up. We don't want to see other people suffer. Maria writes, for people that don't open up, I would say find a common ground for entry. And I think, again, if you don't know what that is, maybe because you don't know that person, the way to find that is just to be there, be present, and be open. And to very gently, in a general way, offer to be there for them.
I do want to open up again. We're getting close to the end of the hour here, so I want to go ahead and open up to our folks who are on the Zoom meeting with us to drop in any suggestions they have, any ideas, any things that you do to raise your spirits during these times. You know, there are so many things that we have an opportunity to do during a holiday season that maybe aren't available to us this year that we would get out and do, but certainly there are things from where we are. I was talking to some friends the other day, and we were talking about trying to arrange a Zoom meeting for a nursing home and doing like a little Zoom show for them, and trying to be able to communicate with them, just something that we can do to spread some kind of joy. And yeah, Mariah says, remembering the good times. Oh yes, videos, funny videos, Jelly, great idea. Music is a great one, isn't it?
Yes.
That is so much of a, you could tell the difference. If you've ever been driving when there was mellow music on and then a rock song comes on and you see how differently you drive, you realize the effect of music. Yeah. Oh, Nathan. Yes. Gratitude journaling. I think Nathan does like 5 or 10 things every night that he actually writes in a journal of things he's grateful for. What a great way to end the day.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right
That's
before sleep, that's the time when you're setting your mind up for
That's
what you're going to dream or
exactly.
how you're going to feel during the night.
exactly. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's
So
wonderful.
that's a very positive one.
There
Excellent.
are so many good things.
Yes. So and reaching out to your friends. You know, yes, doing things of service, but reaching out to people and like Gina was saying earlier, check on people that you know might be vulnerable,
Mhm.
especially during this holiday season, as we know that a lot of people are going to be alone because we're all separated. Uh,
Yes.
this is the time to
Mhm.
contact people that you know are by themselves and say, "Hey, are you okay?" And hey, let's talk about the good times that we've had, and you know, just have some fun with them.
Mhm.
Um, I think that the connections that we can make at this time are going to be more important than they've ever been before. This is the Christmas to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Great stuff there. Now, in case y'all didn't see it, I did drop in the list of resources in the chat. So you can open up the chat and get the PDF that Gina had of all these different resources, everything from helplines and suggestions of things that you could do.
And those are 24, those are all free, and it's 24 hours because maybe it's at 1 o'clock in the morning that you haven't gotten to sleep and you really would like. One of the benefits of, when you call it a 800 number, you don't know anybody, is that sometimes people are more apt to talk openly because you don't know this other person on the end.
Right.
So you're not going to hold back. You're never going to see them or talk to them ever again. And so you can really, talk openly to them and pour your heart out. That people do find a benefit in that. They might be more open to that.
I like that because you're not talking with the expectation of this is what this person's like. You know, they don't know what you're like. So
Right.
you can be totally open with them. That's a good
Well,
point.
it's not an in-law, it's not your neighbor. You don't have to be embarrassed or, you're never going to talk to them again or see them again. So you can be as open as you want.
That's
You
great.
can always also call me in the middle of the night because I have insomnia.
Okay, writing that down right now, and we know you have FaceTime. Okay. So, but yeah, those nighttime hours are very vulnerable hours,
Yeah,
aren't
Yes.
they?
very
So,
hard.
and like we're talking about here in the chat, single people quarantining alone can be
And
very
this
difficult.
year,
Hmm.
so hard for so many people. If people are outwardly directed and really social beings, this year has been
Very hard.
nightmarishly difficult.
Hmm.
Yes.
So,
As a matter of fact, a lot of people, people that I know who are single, they can't do it. They're taking more risks. They're going out because they say, I can't be home anymore.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. They've pretty much reached their limit.
Mhm.
so this is all the more reason that we can be there for them in different formats.
Yeah.
Please, video call, I don't care, email, text, whatever. Anybody you know who might need somebody to reach out to them during this holiday season. Remember to ask for help. I think that was a very valuable thing that we've brought up today, that we need to be willing to ask. And we don't have to be Superman or Superwoman all the time. It's okay for us to be vulnerable and tell people that we need help. So
Mhm.
go ahead and ask people, and don't assume because somebody is a jovial, holly jolly kind of person that they're not susceptible to depression,
Mhm.
because quite often those folks will be even more susceptible in many ways.
Mhm.
So I leave the floor to you two to say one last statement that you would like to share with anybody before we close things out.
Well, I would just like to tell people to, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate. Don't have unrealistic expectations. And the goal is to just let's make it through here, and you can do that. But be kind to yourself.
Amen. Sarah?
Yes, absolutely. Self-care, very important. And I would say just know that the holidays will be over in a nanosecond if they're really getting you down. And I wish you Godspeed in staying uplifted.
Bless you. Thank you both so much for being our guests today and bless you for all of your advice. We look forward to having you again on another episode of the show, please. Okay? Be thinking about other topics, all right?
Okay.
And
Great.
we thank all of you who are here as guests, who are in our chat, and all the folks on Facebook. We invite you next Wednesday night to join us again at 6 o'clock for another episode of Recalculating Route. It will not be as inspirational as tonight, I'm sorry. Next week is actually going to be a comedy workshop. And because guests are hard to get later on in December, I had to have my husband as the guest. It's not going to be pretty, but you know, it's a free show, folks. Get used to it, okay? So
Free
thank
what?
you. Oh, he can hear me. He's on chat. Oh, never mind. Thank y'all once again for being a part of this, and bless you and have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Recalculating Route. Join us next Wednesday evening at 6 Central